5, 4, 3. All right, you know the routine. If you're joining us now and it's Tuesday, that means it's time for Comic Book School Live, the only show that gives you the details about the craft and business of making comics. My name is Buddy Scalera, and I am a comic book writer, and I am joined by my good pal, Mike Fasolo. Mike, you're really decked out tonight, huh? You got a nice robe on for
the robe back. Yeah, it's all been cleaned up and looking nice, I think.
Did you actually shave? Because I actually shaved for this and put a shirt on.
What'd you shave, like 6 months ago?
Yeah, I shaved 6 months ago. Do you notice the stubble starting to grow back in? Because that takes me about that much time to grow that beard. Well, it looks like people are already here. Bear, I love Patton Oswalt. Fave comic. That's like favorite, Mike.
Is he a comic? Is Patton Oswalt a comic?
And hand pink waving. So, Mike, you are an Emmy award winner. How many times? One time? Three time. 3-time Emmy award winning. This is you for reference. That was a heck of a shave. You grew that in one day, right?
Yes. That was just with a lot of effort.
Yeah. So, every week we give people a super special show, something that is unforgettable, beloved, and of course, chat worthy. But this evening, Mike, we obviously are doing something right because all the celebs want to be on the show. We have not one, but 2 major comic book writers who happen to dabble in television a little bit.
They've just, dabbled, as you say.
They dabble. So tonight we will be including Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum, the creators of Minor Threats, but also well known for something called MODOK, which I think you've watched, right?
I've seen a couple episodes,
yeah. I've seen them. I see them in the green room, and I'm kind of relieved. I will tell you, I'm kind of relieved because I was worried that if we read this comic and it was awful, this was going to be we could have canceled. We were like, oh, sorry guys. I'm going to bring on our first guest and welcome Jordan Blum to the show. Jordan, welcome to the show. Hold on, let's give you some applause.
How's it going?
Jordan,
Patton said he wanted to make a really big entrance, so he had computer trouble, and he's saying asking to join are other people on yet. So I don't think he realizes it's live, but
it is indeed live. Worry not. It's this
he's
guy
not there. He's trying to get into this somewhere.
It's our usual.
How's it
going? Jordan, welcome to the show. Jordan, you are also an Emmy award-winning writer, are you not?
Emmy award-winning? No. Just a writer. There's no nothing in front of it yet. I've worked on shows that have, I think, won Emmys, but I personally did not win.
You're an Emmy award winner in our hearts.
Okay.
Well, you and Patton have created an awesome comic book, and it's called Minor Threats, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight. But Jordan, you are the showrunner for the hit Hulu series MODOK.
Yes.
Tell us, what the heck does a showrunner do?
They make all the decisions. Everything has to kind of go through you. You get to work with the actors. You oversee the room. You have kind of the vision for the season. You all the scripts go through you. You work hand in hand with the directors, the editors, the the sound designers, everything you're there for, and kind of guiding it as it goes. Sorry, I'm trying to help Patton too as he goes. He said he's trying to rejoin.
Oh, there he is. I see him.
Got him? Okay.
Hey about that.
There we go.
That's
Hey.
no problem.
There he is.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's our pleasure. So we're really excited. We're very excited to talk about Minor Threats and what you guys have accomplished. And we'll just talk about your experiences creating comics. How does that sound?
Fun.
Great.
So, no show for Comic Book School is ever complete without a few slides. So I'm going to do the slide thing. And Mike makes fun of me because I always have to look for it on my screen.
He's always like this.
Yeah, I always have to look beyond the webcam. So welcome to the show,
Ooh.
Jordan and Patton. This is you guys. We are here tonight. Patton, you've had an unbelievable career. As I was trying to pull together some of the best shows that you've been on, it was a little hard to decide. So I asked the internet, and there are literally sites and pages devoted to your best work.
Wow, that's flattering. Thank you.
Yeah. And tonight I get to be cool because Ratatouille is a favorite in our house. So it's a pretty big deal
I'm
for us.
glad.
I should
Yeah.
say my
Thank you.
4-year-old watched it for the first time today, Patton.
What did he think?
He picked it on his own. I wasn't like, hey, I know that guy. You should watch this movie. He sought it out and loved it and watched the whole thing. 'Cause he's been cooking with his mom. It was adorable. Anyway.
Oh, that is adorable. That makes me so happy.
And then, Patton, you probably, I know this is probably a highlight of your career coming on here tonight, but you also worked with Robot Chicken, Mike being one of those writers from the Robot Chicken.
Yeah. That was God, that was a fun show. That was just it's like the geek repository of making fun of things that we love, because usually it's the stuff that you love that you end up going, but why is this thing wrong with it, or why is that? Like, I love that spirit of the show.
Yep. And we
It's
love
saying stuff sucks. It's saying that stuff is great, but then why did they fumble this one thing?
Yeah, we loved warping the minds of the youth.
Yes, that's always a worthwhile pursuit.
And then, Jordan, not to be outdone, you have some pretty awesome credits as well. We were going through. You're the showrunner of the show MODOK, and wrote a metric ton of American Dad episodes.
Yes, very fun show to work on. It cut my teeth on, and then was able to go off with Patton and do our own show with MODOK, which was a blast.
So it looks like people are already making comments. No Aqua Teen Hunger Force. So you got an Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Again, if you're going to be a completist, we're going to be here all night. We won't be able to talk about Minor Threats. But again, I'm very flattered that people know all the weird minor side stuff.
I've heard every bit of your comedy. I've seen you 3 times in Dallas, and I've read both of your books. I'm your biggest fan. That's Bear. Bear is your biggest
Thank you, Bear.
Prove
biggest
it.
fan.
Yeah.
Get a tattoo.
Cut off your pinky.
And Ari says you were great as Matthew the Raven.
Oh, well, thank you, Ari. That was a dream come true for me. I've been a Sandman fan since the late 80s. So to get to be Matthew the friggin' Raven, that's a big deal. That was a big deal.
Well, I would also say that writing for Dark Horse Comics is probably an equally big deal. And so let's get into that.
Yay.
All right. So Minor Threats. I was saying, Patton and Jordan, that Mike and I are greatly relieved that this was a really good comic.
Thank you. I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah, we were. I said to Mike, just the other day, I was like, did you read it yet? He's like, I'm reading it. It's pretty good. And then I was like, just let me know. And then he said it was really good. So I went ahead and did my homework and read it. And I got to tell you guys, you did a really great job pulling together meta references. I thought this was just going to be a parody. It was a powerful, emotional, well thought through storyline that reminded me sort of a mashup between, Watchmen and The Boys and some of the other big comics that have commentary on superheroes. What a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the characters were great. Loved every single one of them. There was a lot of fun to read in all of them.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun putting together. I hate to use the word trope, but how do we humanize, kind of throw away an inhuman tropes and make them relatable? So a lot of our brain real estate went toward that. Brain real estate? That doesn't make any sense.
Sounds about right.
Oh.
Yeah. Mike and I don't have a lot of that real estate.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and you kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't seem fair that you guys get these people giving you testimonials. It just feels like an unfair advantage that you had.
They just reached out to us. They read the book. They were reading it on their own. And they just like, put our names on this, please. That's exactly how.
Yeah, they begged us. Like, come on.
Yeah.
We're hanging on by our fingernails here. Put us on your comic book.
Also, and a big shout out to your artist, Scott Hepburn. I guess he's the co-creator. We're going to go through some of the art and talk about the storyline, but wow, what an accomplishment of art design and coloring.
Yes. Scott is Ian Herring is our colorist, and Nate Picos is our letterer. But Scott, we worked with on MODOK comic we did for Marvel when the show was coming out. They had asked us to kind of do some sort of tie-in, and we didn't want to just kind of do a version of our show. We really wanted to do the 616 real Marvel MODOK. So Scott was the artist assigned to us, and we just hit it off. He's like, this guy draws the way we see comics, and we were like, can we just sign you to a lifetime contract? Let's go create a universe together.
Yeah, I mean the way that he fills out these characters and creates side characters that could be stories on their own. And I'm really glad you brought up the coloring, because Ian Herring really, he has not to get all nerdy cinematic, but he has a Robbie Mueller sense of lighting and cinematography, the way that the different light sources, come in, the white light hitting people, purple, yellow, and stuff like that. You really get a feel for this world and how trying to light a lot of the darkness just makes things look even more dark, which that I really loved. And they were amazing.
Yeah, this is a really good looking book, but let's start from the beginning. Give us the overview as writers, how you pitched this story to Dark Horse, and really help ground the readers in this superhero, I would say somewhere between Astro City and Watchmen, deconstructionist, but also you played it with a straight face. Tell us a little bit about Minor Threats.
Yeah, I think the goal was deconstructionist, but through a love letter. I think sometimes some of the deconstructionist stuff is like, aren't superheroes silly if we really ground them and try and imagine them? And ours was like, that's what's awesome about superhero comics, is the craziness and the silliness and the Silver Age, and the fact that these people exist throughout, all these different time periods, Bronze Age, Modern Age, and we wanted to kind of make that part of the story of these kind of goofier D-listers who are being dragged into this much darker Frank Miller, Alan Moore world. And they're like, how do we exist in this? We're going to get left behind. So we better kind of go after, find a way out of this world before we die in it. And that's kind of the genesis of the story. But do you want to talk, Patton, like you had conceived some of this as a Batman story originally, right?
Well, yeah, I wanted to do the idea, and it was a riff on Fritz Lang's M, but it was the basic idea of when the Joker breaks out of Arkham Asylum, Batman and the rest of the Bat family come down on the city like a ton of bricks, and it's the street level villains that get hit the hardest first as Batman works his way up to find out where the Joker is. And so my original thing, I wanted to have it be a literal C-list of villains, calculator, crime doctor, crazy quilt, copperhead, and he's just, and they are forced to band together, even though none of them like each other, thinking, if we hand over the J, if the C-list hands over the J, then the Batman will get a little credit in the favor bank from the heroes. So But we had done some work for the majors, and it was either, I can't remember who, it was Jordan or I were like, well, why are we busting our ass when we could do something where we create it from the ground up? And then Jordan was one to say, and then we could just build this whole world out. Jordan has this great line about what would a city look like with 60 years of continuity already on it, where in reality, they don't really clean things up that quickly. So you still see the evidence. And that, when he said that, I was like, oh my God, that's still, yes, that's like, I saw it. So that's where that, I had this spark, and then he fanned it into a bonfire, and it was amazing.
So yes, we wanted to investigate the C-list, D-list, costume crook, not the guy who's trying to take over the world, not your Dr. Dooms, and or not even like your Jokers who are driven by chaos. It's just the jobbers, the guys who put these costumes on and they knock over jewelry stores, and they're just trying to kind of pay their bills and alimony and buy beers at the end of the day, for their buds. And we love those. They felt like Coen Brothers characters to us, and no one had kind of told their story, really. So we wanted to do kind of a love letter to those characters and do this kind of warrior style, like one crazy night in the city, the hell night for these villains who are trying to go after a much more dangerous super villain to get the, collect the bounty on his head. And that villain's killed a sidekick. So you have this unhinged vigilante working his way through the city. You have this, our team, the Continuum, is kind of our Justice League, cracking down, turning into a police state. So it's just all kind of seen through the villain on the street point of view of, maybe this is our way out of this crappy life.
Yeah, that was all good stuff. And even though you didn't get too deep into like all of the characters, the little bits that you showed were just enough to be like, this is a great character. Like my favorite of the whole bunch was Pigeon Pete. I was like, I want to know his backstory. I want to know.
We had so much affection for him. Just that idea of, I'm one of my favorite characters is a DC character called the Red Bee, who was a hero. The guy with like a belt that he would let a bee out, and the bee would like bother the villain, and he would somehow win. It just the most clanky, obvious gimmick, and that's all he has to live on. There's something so beautiful about that. I have so much affection for those guys,
Yeah, we talked about him mixed with what's in The Color of Money, what's that character who kind of comes back and he's like washed up?
Oh, Fast Eddie Felson.
Yeah, like a Fast Eddie Felson who's kind of aged out of super villainy and kind of still is hungry to be a part of it still, but it's passed him by, Yeah. That was kind of that and the Red Bee. Mix those together.
Yeah.
No, so one of the things that you did do is dimensionalize all the characters. I just want to pull this up, Patton. This is my daughter who's doing this from upstairs in the house. Yeah, she's in the house. She passed by 3 or 4 times to see if it was really you on the show. So,
oh well, thanks, Nicole. That's very flattering.
So anyway, as we start to let's take a look at the comic real quick. Oh, that was the wrong button. I'm famous for not getting the right button, Jordan. I wouldn't be your good switcher for your show. So you guys really took a lot of time to dive into the backgrounds of C-list characters. They don't not all see themselves as C-list characters. Some of them see them as characters that were trying to achieve more and ended up here.
Right.
And there's a lot of regret in here. You want to just talk about some of these themes that you were covering?
Yeah. Well, I think, our main character, Playtime, who's this bartender here, Frankie, she's a second generation supervillain. So her mom was a supervillain and kind of forced her into that life. And then Frankie's been in and out of jail her whole life. There's her mom, Loretta. So it's Toy Queen and Playtime were who they were. But Frankie actually has powers and she can build these things, but they always end up being, kind of toy weapons. Nothing ever comes out beyond that. So, she's been in and out of jail. She has a daughter herself now who she has no relationship with. And she's trying to go straight, and she's trying to live a normal life, but no one will give her a job. No one will lease her an apartment. She's an ex-con with powers and she finds it almost impossible. So her mom helps out by giving her this helping her get a job at this bar where these other D-list supervillains hang out. And it's there that she finds out about the stick man, our villain, and him murdering the sidekick and this bounty on his head, where she's like, you know what? If I'm ever going to get out of this life, I need money. So I'm going to put on the mask one last time, and I'm going to, pull off this job. And hopefully I can walk away with my daughter and escape this life forever. But the other thing we wanted to play with is that this is the world she knows. And there's this kind of almost this code amongst them. And it's this romanticized lifestyle. So in one way, she's trying to escape it. In another way, it's like it's part of her DNA. And she's kind of debating, is this who I really am? Or, can I leave it behind? And we thought that was a really good character to kind of hinge the story on. And then all these other villains join her in the first issue. And then each issue, we switch narrators. So you get to learn who some of these other characters are and why they threw in with her and why they're risking their lives to take down this villain.
Yeah.
So as you guys were diving into the background, obviously you've worked together, you have a relationship. How do you start to explore the characters, their backgrounds, their histories, and build this world? And then we'll get into the differences between world building for television and the screen and the page. Pat, you want to lead off with how you and Jordan collaborated?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, we get together whenever we can. My schedule tends to be a little crazier than his. His is way more stable. And so when we get together, it's basically us. First, we map out, with a comic series, you map out the issues themselves. What's the overall story that's going to be told? And you break it up into each issue. And it's just a series. It's a process of going back through over and over and adding more detail. The overall story, the story of each issue, the story of each character, the story of each panel. You just keep filling it out that way. And we're really good at bouncing off each other because we very, very much know this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of figuring out who's going to be the character whose point of view we're seeing this story through. And then, what's their backstory? Like, what would lead someone to put on a costume and go, this is the only thing I can do in life? Like, there's got to be a tragedy there. And we talked a lot about Batman the Animated Series. They did such a good job where the villains were so nuanced and you really cared about them when you were watching the series. Like, they were kind of the characters with arcs, not Batman. And we thought about, well, how do you make the audience invest in these people who have made a series of bad decisions that have led them into this life? So that was kind of, the process of fleshing the other characters out.
Mike, one of your favorite ever comic series is Astro City.
Yes, it is.
Mine too. I love that series. Yeah. And yes, there is shamelessly a lot of Astro City in there. Huge inspiration on it.
Yeah, that is such a good series because all their characters are so fleshed out, and even like little side ones. You think that this is a main character, and it's just somebody who pops in.
But fleshed out without stopping the action to go, this is this person, and like you've got to pick it up in context.
Yeah, it is extremely well done.
Yeah.
Now the world building and the character building were part of it, but you have both done this in your past lives. You're primarily known for television, or Patton television and film. What is the difference for writing for the screen than writing for the page? And what were the different muscles that you had to learn how to use when you were working to write to the page?
I don't want to speak for Jordan, but writing comics is very, very similar to what writing television and film. There's you map out scenes and dialogue, and then your artist is sort of your DP cinematographer. And if you're going to be a rivet man and describe every single thing that happens in every frame, you can do that. But we're very good about, here's what the action on the page looks like, and then Scott Hepburn figures out how to break that up and tell that in the best possible way. So there's very much the same muscles as television and film writing.
Mm-hmm. I would say that, the nice thing about comics is there's a shorthand with your audience. So, with TV, you kind of have to develop it in a way where you're easing this wide audience into this world where here, like we said, we can use characters that are reminiscent of other characters. There's an expectation
Right.
that there's some knowledge of comics, I think, or comic reading going into this, so that, and also you can stop and look at it, and the backgrounds and the things Scott's adding fill out the world, and you don't have to touch upon them. You can just let them exist, I think, in the background, and continue on with the story and the characters we're focusing on while the world fleshes itself out in every panel. So I think that was really fun to kind of, not have to kind of explain every little thing. And sometimes TV, you have to catch your audience up a little more.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys break it down by like page and panel, or were you just like, this is what's happening on this page?
Well, sometimes we would break it down by panel if you wanted a specific thing to happen. But a lot of times it was, we would suggest a number of panels to hear, but then Scott would come back and go, it would actually work with more or with less, or we could lose the panels and do this as a splash page. And, that to me is always exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have essentially an unlimited budget to do whatever you need to do. Right?
Yes, we do. That's the point.
So what was the most difficult part of writing for the page that you just didn't realize you'd be encountering as you're structuring out such a big story?
I think it's getting, by the time you get to the last issue and you're like, oh, wait, we forgot to, we have to pay this off, this off, and this off, and we only have 28 pages to do it. It's trying to, tell an efficient story.
Because especially when you have so many ideas and you want to use all of them and you get a little greedy, you can get greedy. I want all of them in there. And there is such a thing. I learned this the hard way on the first comic I ever wrote for DC, Justice League, Welcome to the Working Week. I had so many ideas and I just wanted to cram on the page, sometimes to the detriment of just pure storytelling. It became a gallery of, look at all these cool thoughts I have about superheroes, but it wasn't telling the story. And I didn't realize that till later.
Yeah, I think you become sensitive, right, to pacing, and your words really aren't as important as the art. So you don't need to have this character say this thing. It's just kind of getting in the way of this beautiful picture. Cut it, and maybe you don't need this beat that you thought was so creative in your head because it's slowing down the pacing of the issue, and you want to open it up and get to a splash page, and you're running out of pages. And I think it's those sacrifices of thinking, again, going back to TV is a writer's medium, and I think comics is very much an artist's medium, and you have to service that. And I think you just check your ego at the door and be like, what's going to make Scott draw the best book, and what's going to make the best paced book and best looking book. And sometimes my stuff gets in the way of that. So who cares? Cut it.
Yeah. It hurts, but you got to do it.
Now, how do you guys break up the workload? Mike and I do a lot of writing together, and we're determined to never get it published or shown on the screen. Unlike you guys, the way Mike and I generally work is I come up with an idea. I promise Mike that I'll give him something in a week. I don't. And then Mike calls me to remind me, and then it's Tuesday and we have to do the show, and then we forget about it. How do you guys work together and collaborate?
It's different every time. Jordan does end up doing a lot of the bulk of the work because he knows the formatting so much better, and all these tricks of insert here, enter here. I just write it, and if I got to change it, I go and rewrite it. All these, and a lot of times, unfortunately, I'm traveling and I'm busy, so we do as much writing as we can. We're together, but I will openly admit that Jordan really carries some more weight on the actual writing.
Well, I think the best stuff to me comes out of I thought about this scene this way. You thought about this scene this way. Wait, what if we mesh this? Honestly, I think really think the best scenes are those let's take that little piece, connect that to this piece, because I feel like sometimes when you write in a vacuum, your stuff, you can get repetitive or the voices, so I love being able to, again, when we write together, it's the best because it's ideas. And then other times it's doing passes on each other's pages. And that, I think, always ends up being the best.
Right.
We should try that, Mike.
Occasionally, yeah, maybe we'll put that on the list of things to do.
Do the work. So, Patton, I don't usually throw in fan questions like this, but if you could be a supervillain, what would your name be and what would your power be?
Oh, God. supervillain. I mean, it would be really cool to have no fail teleportation and be the world's either greatest thief or greatest assassin, where there's no way you can be seemingly multiple places at once because you can zap everywhere. But I think eventually I'd want to end up trying to find a way to use those powers for good. But yeah, no fault teleportation and then just fuck with things would be. Oh, can I curse on this podcast?
I don't know. I think we can. No one's ever tried before, have we?
Okay, good. All right, sorry. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Jordan, what about you? If you could be a supervillain, what would you be?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I've always liked characters who can just grow really big. I love the idea of like or growing or shrinking, seeing the world in different perspectives would be my two ones.
I'm with you. But Jordan, I would want my power to be really useless. Like I could grow in height in either direction a half inch, up or a half inch. That's it. Like
right. Very limited.
Not much more than that.
Did you see it? I just used my power.
That was it. I used my powers.
Yeah.
Oh, Patton, they gave you a name. Guess you'll be.
Oh, thank you, Bear. Telepatton.
Telepatton.
There you go. That one's all set now.
Or you're selling like mobile phones.
My superpower is I can get really reasonable rates.
Yeah,
that's my power.
Everyone can find your kiosk at the mall.
Mike, do you have a supervillain power?
Oh, I would probably just be able to grow my hair back. That'd be it. That'd be it for me.
That would be it.
Yeah.
Mike could grow a beard during this show.
I can grow a beard during the show, but the hair on my head, no, that never comes back.
Jordan and Patton, I just want you to know that for this episode, Mike, who's dialing in, I guess, from prison or a middle school or something, wore a clean robe tonight for you.
Clean.
Oh, well,
hey, famous for his robe.
Respect. You show respect. You know that it gets you a better interview, definitely.
Special guest comes out the special robe.
All right, so some of the challengings and learnings and what that would lead to if you did a follow-up. Okay, we're going to cut that. How did that come on the screen?
Ooh.
Rob, cut that off.
I mean, I would. Oh boy, you start with this one, Jordan. You take this one.
I think we figured out because we were pretty new to comics. Pat had done more than I had, and I've done a few Marvel short stuff here and there, but it was really sometimes it's a lot harder to do the world building, and it's easier to kind of play with other people's toys because it's all the voices are already there, the locations, all that. You kind of you're playing with what's already been built, where the world building, you can get lost in it a little bit. And I think we had to pull ourselves back every once in a while because you're like, I just want to spend time in this location. I want to set up this. What does New Jersey look like in this world? Who's the superheroes there? We should establish that. And I think we very quickly were like, nope, it's these characters' story, and everything has to service that. So I think that was the big lesson from this one.
And what would you do differently next time, Jordan?
Nothing. We nailed it. I think it was later on Nate, our letterer, we didn't really get to communicate with him until later into the book. And I think the hardest thing for myself, and I think Patton, you feel this way too, is it's very hard to see how what you write will translate into bubbles. So I think the first issue or two issues we overwrote, and then we would cut after we saw the lettering. So it's covering up too much. And that is a lot of work for the letterer. So we started doing pre-letter passes and trying to hack and cut stuff way earlier. To make things easier on Nate. And then he was able to kind of give us some hints, and being able to work closely with your letterer is amazing. And you realize all the tools at their disposal and how you can utilize that. The best thing about comics is learning every part of the art form, the coloring, the pencils, the inking, the lettering, and going, how do we incorporate that? How do we collaborate with these amazing artists to just make the book better? So it was kind of reaching out and working with them more.
And Patton, how about you? What did you learn, and what will you do differently going forward?
At every chance you have, if you can make it a more visual and action-oriented story and less dialogue-driven, less people standing and spouting, If you can find ways to show character in action rather than in dialogue, try to find those. And again, like Jordan said, the more you see the process, the penciling, the inking, the lettering process, the more you know about how it works, the better you can visualize things as you write them.
Yeah,
which I think is great.
Yeah, I would say that's true. And I would say that with time, you start to feel the pacing of the structure and what you can fit on the page. I'm sure you guys experience that, where you're like, oh, well, I want so much to happen on the page, but a page is like a beat. And then you have to build out those scenes around those beats. And then, of course, end with the cliffhanger. Was that a challenge for you guys, or did it really just come naturally because of your television background?
I mean, we overwrote.
We definitely overwrote. But there were a couple of issues where we did, oh my God, we actually landed on a cool cliffhanger leading up to the next issue. But yeah, it took us making a lot of mistakes to realize, oh, here's how you do it.
And I think also there's tricks in the art form to utilize that, where you can have dialogue from some other scene overlapping the scene you're seeing, or, we have one page in the first issue where we were going to do this whole flashback where this guy gets beat up by this vigilante, and instead we just had him, in present time, lying on his table, and little insets of the beatdown happening on one page. So what would have been 3 pages became one giant splash page that told you everything you need to know. So it's kind of like, oh, there's visual tools that are very different than movies or TV that are at your disposal, and it's just kind of figuring out how to best use them.
Mike, as a wildly successful 3-time Emmy Award-winning television screenwriter, can you give any additional questions or commentary on this?
Well, I just want to know if there's going to be more.
There's some announcements coming. I would say
that's all we're going to say.
Comic-Con. Check in around Comic-Con.
Yeah. Check with us in July.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, so you're waiting until there's like 100,000 people
and
not our show?
Yeah, isn't that weird? Yeah, we're trying to maximize the exposure.
We'll give you guys an exclusive. We're going to have some merch down at
Comic-Con. Nice.
Yeah, some pins, some posters, some cool stuff. So that'll be a big thing to look forward to if you like the book and you want to come down to Comic-Con and talk to us about it and buy our stuff.
Buy our stuff. That is the thing. Yeah. That's where we remind everybody that the way you say thank you to creators is buy their stuff.
Yep.
And you can buy this at all of the finest comic book stores in the country. Patton, there was a question about you getting revenge on a curb.
The curb didn't break my ankle. My clumsiness broke my ankle. So, it is a bad craftsman who blames his tools. So it was not the curb's fault.
The curb is
the curb. If anything, the curb was just as much the injured party as my ankle.
So no revenge
I'm the
plan?
Instigator.
You're not going out there with a sledgehammer?
No. I will not be. I am going to be curbing my enthusiasm for revenge. Folks.
All right, loving the knockoff of DC Comics New Jersey ? It's probably just brighter and smells different, not better. It's visual storytelling, art form, show don't tell. Glenn has a habit of putting a whole bunch of ideas into one.
Wow.
One comment.
Well, so clearly they want the New Jersey.
It felt like you were starting like 4 different thoughts, and then you guys fill these out.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you are looking for the book, June 21st, the trade comes out at comic stores everywhere. And if you're in Los Angeles,
June 21st. Oh, if you're in LA,
Patton and I and Scott will be flying down. We're doing a whole big party event at a comic store called Revenge of on the 21st. Patton's going to be doing stand-up. Brian Posehn,
Ron
Funches is going to be there. We have an amazing band playing as well.
Bleach will be doing a set. One of my favorite East LA band right now. They are the best songwriters, best performers. A's barbecue truck's going to be there. It's free.
Yep.
Come out this time. There'll be a raffle. Meet us. It's going to be a blast.
And now, where's this location again?
It's called Revenge of Comics, and it is in Eagle Rock in Glassell Park. And you can Look it up. Jordan, do you have that address in front of you?
I don't. Everyone has Google. If you're watching this, you're on a computer. You can Google it.
Yeah, someone Google that and
How
put it
hard
into
is
the
that?
chat for us.
Yeah.
Or you could go to 3420 Eagle Rock Boulevard for Revenge of Comics.
Yes.
And then pinball machines inside, and the place is amazing.
Oh yeah, pinballs, amazing pinball collection in there too. So it's a very cool spot.
Boy.
And the guys who own it are production designers. So there's going to be these cool, like huge kind of posters of the book, and the art's going to be everywhere, and it's all outside, and it's going to be really neat. So come on by.
Well, I do remember
You'll
doing
love
a
it.
comic book signing, and they wrote our name on a white paper plate and just added names as we showed up. So
that's
kind of the same thing, right? It's going to have a
Generally, yeah.
I mean, if
same
we're being
vibe.
honest, comic books don't really get premieres or parties, so we're trying to up the game a little bit, trying to elevate the party vibe of the medium.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a spectacle there. So free in LA, not so free for us to get there. Ha. But I hope it's fun for you guys. No, you're buying plane tickets for everybody that's
Right.
in the audience.
Well, no, we partnered, with Greyhound buses, and we'll be busing anyone who wants to come in. They're a
Nice.
sponsor. Yeah. I hope you can make it.
Yeah. Glenn wanted to explain himself. He says he thinks faster than he types. I edited constantly. Sorry, guys. So you accept his apology?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So they
I
asked
didn't. We weren't asking for an apology, but we'll accept it. Why not?
All right. So guys, they wanted the audience loves this. The question that we put to all creators is as follows. What is one piece of advice that you wish you had received earlier in your career? And let's start off because you're already in the top left corner. Patton, what is one piece of advice that you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Start doing stuff. Don't wait until it feels like the right moment or it feels like there will be a reward for your starting. Start first without any plan or reward in mind. Just get moving, get things in motion, and then things will follow. It would have saved me a couple of years of timidity. Just get started. Yeah, but how do I? Don't worry about it. Just want to write a comic, start writing a comic, and then stuff will start happening. I can't. It just starts happening if you start. You got to start first. But what do I got? Just start. Just start writing. Get a piece of paper, start writing your comic. Everything else will follow. Go start.
I like it. All right.
Don't worry about that. You don't think about that now. Start.
All right, Jordan, I'm going to put you in the top left corner and ask you the same question. What is one piece of advice you wish you had received earlier in your career?
Only write the stuff that you love, because the stuff that you write that you love is the stuff that connects with people. So don't go chasing jobs, do this or that. Strictly focus on the things that you love writing.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like it. This is good. This is good advice. Looks like we have some comments. I'll just hook my wheelchair to a bus and be on my way then. So what's the date and place again, guys? So everybody
6/21.
Wednesday, June 21st, 6 to 9 p.m. Revenge of Comics, 3420 Eagle Rock Boulevard. We will see you there. Bands, comedy, barbecue, signings, raffles, pinball. What aren't we doing?
All right, guys. We have a scientifically proven part of the show that everybody loves. And as creators, we ask you to be part of it. It is trivia time. And every week, Mike provides a bit of trivia for us as creators. And then he gives us a prompt and we see where we go with it. Mike, scientifically proven best part of the show. Give us a little bit of trivia.
Okay, so today is something called the Oakville Blobs. Now, these were back in 1994. These little rice-sized globs of gelatinous goo started raining down on this town of Oakville in Washington. And, the residents picked some of them up. And, of course, then later on, they started getting sick, like flu-like symptoms. So these, some of the residents sent them off to the Department of Ecology in Washington State. And basically nothing was ever really discovered about them, like what they were. Some of them had a little bit of bacteria in them that could affect the human digestive system. but there was never any conclusive results as to what they were or where they came from. And even the samples, they're now long gone. And even the ones that they sent to the ecology department have just mysteriously vanished. So, yeah. So the things are, what could you do with a story like that? Now, you could go the typical route of something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You know, these are globules of some sort of alien parasite that's coming down to take over the world. You could do something like maybe it's an alien germ from some disintegrating comet that's passing near the Earth, causing a pandemic. Nobody likes pandemics, but hey, sometimes they make for good stories. Or you could do that something nice and superpowery, where whoever touches one of these blobs gets superpowers, and then you got a good story right there.
All right, so help us out. Who wants to go first and tell us what you would do with the gelatinous blobs? What is it called, Mike? It's called the Oakville blobs.
Oakville blobs.
Well, I posted on QAnon, obviously. No,
I go to the QAnon 4chan thread. Started off first issue. The blobs come down. A guy is a couple and maybe their friend are picking them up, and then they start to feel really like, oh, something's wrong. I don't feel good at all. And then they go to the local doctor, and the doctor is trying to check them out. And it looks like our world, but there's just something the technology seems a tiny bit more advanced. The people seem just a little bit more handsome and cleaner or something. And what you realize is in the very last panel, when the wife somehow gets cured, but the husband doesn't. And then they're going to go out for a day with their family, and the wife just starts flying away, and the husband suddenly can't. And you realize this is a planet full of super people with Kryptonian-like power. And this disease has come down, and it's spreading and turning it into normal Earth, basically. And then it becomes a story about these super people trying to keep their superpower. In other words, being a normal human that can't fly and isn't immune to bullets and stuff like that, that is, in this world, is what cancer looks like to them. And that's what they're trying to find a cure for.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 acts ready to go on that.
Wow. I know you guys wanted to go political.
I would have a lot of parodic elements. I would make it world, as the story goes on, it does spread around the world. They're having a Jerry Lewis style telethon for this. That it hasn't, and they're trying to, the people that get this are now being shunned. So I can make it an AIDS metaphor, or but I could do a lot of fun things with this. And then it's not to the last panel of issue 1 that you realize this is a superhero world, and the plague is being a normal human and dying when you're 80.
Nice.
Wow. So we did have one political idea: Chris Christie and the amorphous blobs.
As the leader.
But I would still get Burt Bacharach to do the theme song for it. That's my idea is trivia for you, because that was his first job. He wrote the theme to the Blob.
Mine's much more sellout. It's now that Mario is the biggest movie in the world, I would go and I would find the people who have the rights to the very obscure Nintendo game from the 80s, A Boy and His Blob. And I would make the movie based on that, but I would use this story as the foundation for it, the real world setting for my cash-in video game movie.
I like it. I think I would go with the that these little blobs were the amoebas that spawned life here on Earth, and they have returned to spawn life, but they're really friendly. And we have decided to kill them and stomp them out and wipe them out with our windshield wipers. And they're really sad because they just came to be friendly. And we killed them in, what was it, Mike? Where was this? In Oakville, the Oakville blobs. It feels a little,
That's a sad story, bud.
It's a little sad, but a little touching, but I feel like we could pull it off. Now, Mike, which would you go with? You generally go with something that I hate, which is time travel. Did you get any time travel in there? Because I hate
there's no time travel in this one unless you consider the superpowers, and then you get time travel superpowers.
Time travel superpowers. Okay, That's fair.
Yeah.
That is
You can
fair.
only time travel right back to when it first started raining blobs.
Yes. Yes.
It's raining blobs. Hallelujah! It's raining blobs.
So somebody said it's God sneezes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Glenn, our fast typer, says, go ahead, Mike, you read this one. It's a little too long for me.
Ooh, take on the airplane sewage icicle, but instead someone stole a new Jell-O recipe in his carry-on luggage. The Jell-O people are onto him, so he flushes it all down the plane toilet. Plane blows up.
Oh, so it's like a gods must be crazy with Jell-O.
Now, elevator pitch right there. Sold.
And
I already we're why are we still talking? Let's make the posters. It comes out in 2 weeks.
And then Blob 2, Blobbin to Electric Blobaloo. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Bear, playing, having fun. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our Oakville Blobs. Thanks for playing trivia with us.
Yay.
Everybody knows that you should like, comment, and subscribe. And next Tuesday, Jamie S. Rich, editor-in-chief at IDW. Don't miss that. And special thanks to Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt for joining us to talk about your awesome comic book. And we really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your insights and joining us on the show.
Thank you for having us.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for having us on, man. Thank you.
Now we're gonna put you into the green room. You can eat all the Twizzlers you want.
Yay.
Stay there. Be forewarned. Sometimes Mike and our post amble, we will pull you back on, so don't pick your nose or anything while you're off screen, because
unless you like doing that.
Unless that's what you do. That's the thing. All right, Jordan, you were first on, first out. Thank you, Jordan. Patton, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Hang backstage. Mike, that was crazy.
Crazy and informative and pretty awesome.
It was pretty awesome. I would say that Patton is probably our third, fourth, maybe fifth biggest guest we've ever had.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah.
What do you think, Patton? Is that about right?
Yes, I'm definitely your third to fifth biggest guest. I already made that mental calculation. So.
Patton has 2 million followers on Twitter. He clicked like, and all of a sudden my tweet took off. So. All right, Mike, this Bear said it. This made my day, week, month. Thank you. And yeah, thank you guys. You guys are both amazingly talented creators. And for all of you who are out there, I think really take seriously what Patton said, which is at the end of the day, you have to do the work. And if you don't do the work, nobody will. So I think that's the most important thing. Jordan, you do the work, right? You get out, you get those shit work. The shortcuts on the keyboard. You do that.
You know, it passes the time. Doing the writing, slapping the keys.
Jordan does the writer's room. Mike, this is epic. I don't think we'll ever be able to top this in all of our lives. We thank again Jordan Blum, Patton Oswalt, and we thank all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much. We will see you next week for Comic Book School Live. See you, Mike.
Bye-bye.